Hi, welcome to our general discussion on The Island, which is a second movie Shane made me watch about.
Hmm. The Island.
God dang it, Lighthouse, Lighthouse,
The Lighthouse.
which is on an island. So to be fair, they could have called it The Island,
Yeah. So
but
the
I guess
Lighthouse.
the lighthouse is like now. I actually have to watch where my hand is when I talk with my hands, because I
Hmm.
don't want to go way off screen. Because I guess the lighthouse is like the pinnacle of what you're talking about here, because that's what they
Hmm.
want to get to.
Here you go.
There it is.
The
Because it is,
COVID quarantine 1800s edition.
which is literally the only thought I had the entire time while watching the movie, is this is just two straight guys stuck in quarantine for weeks, and this is like a biopic of what would actually happen if that happened, an actual what if statement.
Okay, so getting into the basic plot. I mean, you pretty much
Yeah,
said
what's
it.
the plot?
They're stuck on, not stuck. They're both lighthouse keepers. And essentially they're there for 4 weeks and they're supposed to be picked up again after the 4 weeks, I guess, to switch out with another two.
Yeah, because we see two other people leaving when they go on.
Yeah, but then for whatever reason, they don't get picked up, and so they slowly descend into madness.
Well, a storm comes and stopping any people from being able to go and rescue them, basically.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, as far as the plot goes, it's pretty cut and dry. It's just you're just watching these two actors who, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. I mean, Willem Dafoe we all know is fantastic in everything that
Yeah.
he's in. But
Yes.
then Robert Pattinson, I know a lot of people have been skeptical about him because of Twilight. I've seen him in a couple of other things since then where he's
Hey,
actually been really good.
hey, remember? Hey, remember when we all made fun of all of the actors because they were in Twilight and we all hated Twilight? Remember that? Remember how funny that was?
And now so they're actually kind of good. Well, I
Yeah.
guess the main two.
Yeah. Kristen Stewart had that another monster movie with like sea creatures in it.
Hmm.
She had that movie, which was okay.
And I guess, the biggest highlight for me in this movie, I mentioned in my review, is that the performances really are like fantastic performances.
Yeah.
I mean, I can give it that. As far as the story goes, it's interpret it how you will, but the performances were
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
the strongest point for this movie.
Yeah. So I think that's when we can get into you like this movie at least better than I did, I would say.
I mean, okay, so I finished watching it. I want to say in the first 5 to 10 minutes, I was watching it and I was kind of like, not because of the black and white. I actually didn't have a problem with it being in black and white. And I really didn't
Hmm.
have a problem with the framing because it was
Yeah.
shot specifically for that framing. I didn't have a problem with that. But in the first 5 or 10 minutes, I just had this feeling like, am I really going to watch this whole movie? Should I just turn it off? Because it's just not working for me yet. But then I kind of was like, okay, well, I'll just keep watching it. And then I got hooked into it because I wanted to know where it was going, like what was
Hmm.
going on. But then as I finished it, I was like, okay, what did I watch? I'm not sure if I liked it because I really enjoyed the performances, but I have no idea what I watched.
See, and like I was never like actually, I was kind of almost, I would say, the opposite, where I was kind of okay with it in the beginning.
Hmm.
I was okay with, I mean, I love it, made me feel like I was watching the Twilight Zone
Aha,
because
it
I go
does feel
back
like
and
a
watch
Twilight Zone
those.
episode.
Yeah. So I was watching it like that, and I was like really vibing with it in that way, with something that the actual Twilight Zone people would make.
Hmm.
But then it just kind of descends into, you know, this is. So I don't like The Shining out of the movie The Shining,
Hmm.
which is a hot take that I don't think anybody agrees with. But it's basically The Shining, but on an island in a lighthouse. And I know that that's not just like a thing I noticed, because they like actually have a homage to The Shining.
Oh, what was that?
When Willem Dafoe breaks up the
Oh, with the axe.
and then he goes chasing after him with a limp.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was kind of clever.
Yeah. So, which is that, and I don't like either movie, and this one especially. I'm just seething. I was literally just sitting there, like, okay, so you've got the mystery, you've got all this stuff. Are you gonna do anything? And then I'm just kind of
Well,
sitting
they do
there,
stuff. It's just a matter of how much does it actually make sense.
which is my okay. So I may sound like I hate this movie a lot, but similar to how I am with like a lot of things a lot of people like, I don't want to give those away because we're probably going to talk about them eventually.
hmm
I don't actually hate it as much as I let on that I hate it. Just no one agrees with me, so I have to hate it.
So
Extra,
can we at least say that the things you well, I mean, I guess the things I really don't hate that I actually really enjoy about this movie are the acting, of course, and then
yeah,
the overall directing. Because I think it was a bold choice to do a black and white movie framed the way it was.
yeah.
And I felt,
Again,
and I
that's
felt
not my
like
problem.
I felt like his directing was really good as far as how he was shooting everything, but that the story, I guess, doesn't hold up to the directing and the acting, or
No.
I guess maybe he was trying to go too far out there for it to really
uh,
work as well as he was hoping it would.
well, yeah, so I think the acting is good. I like, so Willem Dafoe is playing Captain Ahab, and they call that out
Yep.
for being incredibly like cliche, which they use the word like cliche or something, which I don't think they would use. They're both pretty men of the earth. I don't think they'd use that language in the 1800s,
hmm
1890s. I do not know what Robert Pattinson is fine. What is his accent?
Oh,
What
I have
is
no
it?
idea. I have
It's
no
like
idea.
I
It's
have
almost like he's
I,
putting on a fake accent,
well, that
and that
almost
could
be
be part of his character.
that's almost clever, but with a lot of things which we can get into, it's not, and we can get into why I think it's not.
hmm
But it's like a Boston accent,
hmm
but then either his actual British accent kicks in and makes it like almost Australian. Because sometimes it sounds like he's slipping
Yeah.
into an Australian accent, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Or it could like okay, so it could be that it could be his actual attempt at doing the accent, or it could be.
Maybe.
I mean, we learn later on that his character, who he tells,
Yeah.
um, who he actually is, isn't actually the truth. He's lying about what his name is
Yeah.
because he took that guy's identity. So maybe he's trying to put on this. Maybe he's acting while he's acting.
Yeah. Which okay. So we got like the essential like what's the setup,
hmm
and that uh there's something going on with the lighthouse.
Something metaphorical is how I feel.
Yes and no, because I guess it's one of those we don't know,
hmm
and uh it's not interesting. Like, okay, so my big problem with the movie, I'm just gonna get into it. I'll just go into, then we can work our way around it, is
okay.
that uh we don't know, and not knowing is not interesting,
hmm
because we can make all of these like, ooh, maybe it was all in his head, or maybe he was, like you said, he was dead the whole time.
Yeah. So I guess.
But
Okay. Go ahead.
I was like, if we stick with that, like, because at the end of the movie, he is dead or left for dead on the island in the lighthouse. Line, see, the on an island, but there's also a lighthouse on the island. Ah, so he's left for dead. So you could almost be like, maybe it was in his head the whole time.
hmm
The problem with any of these readings is that there's not enough in the movie to actually say that,
That's true. And I
which
guess
which
my
is my thing
theory,
with it.
it doesn't do enough to give you some idea of what's going on. And I know that's a
Yeah,
directing choice or writing choice to be very ambiguous with what you're trying to give us. But at the same time, you're kind of leaving us out to dry with our interpretation of it, because it's easy to say at the end of a movie like Inception or whatever movie it is, but let's use Inception for example. It's easy to say for us as the audience, okay, well, we know everything that happened in the movie. The only ambiguous thing is the very ending where it's either one thing or it's another thing. that's simple enough while still leaving it open-ended for us to interpret it. But in this case, he's ambiguous about every single thing that he does, it feels like, to the point where in one scene it might have 3 different meanings that might not even match up in another scene that has 5 different meanings, but nothing
Yeah.
ever feels like it goes together to make even some kind of sense.
Yeah. Which that's just my whole thing with it, is that it wants to be, because I also did the same thing you did where I looked it up while I was looking stuff up about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like, it wants to be like this mythological tale. It wants to be this like like the sea mythological tale about fishermen. It wants to deal with like these themes. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like, but it mentions mythology, but is it actually about that?
Yeah, because I guess like so in the simplest terms, he starts off not drinking like alcohol.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson starts off not drinking alcohol. But then it's when close to, or no, it's the night before they're supposed to be picked up.
Yeah.
They both, well, Robert Pattinson starts drinking. Willem Dafoe's already been drinking. But that's where whatever happened that night, the ship doesn't show up the next morning if they overslept, whatever it was. But so they continue to run out of provisions, but then they drink all the alcohol and they figure out how to drink more alcohol if that
They
was
find
needed.
more alcohol that was
Yeah.
hidden on the island by the
And
lighthouse.
then they progressively get more insane because they don't know what they're going to do, and then they start not trusting each other and trusting each other at the same time, all the way to the point of Robert Pattinson killing Willem Dafoe and then sticking his hand in the lighthouse, in the light, causing him to fall down the steps and then being pecked at alive, like till he
Somehow
dies.
getting outside.
That's where, I mean, we'll get into that in a minute, but so the basic thing was they just go insane to the point where
Yeah.
it kills them both.
Yeah.
But that's down to the bare bones because there's so many things that you can interpret from that. And my biggest thing coming to the ending was, I know a lot of people were saying, because I looked up videos talking about the movie, explaining all this stuff, and they're talking about how it might deal with gods and whatever it may be. But my theory was that it was more of him imagining it
Mm-hmm.
because of the last shot that we had of him. Because if he fell down the stairs and if he was that injured, then I don't see how he could have gotten all the way out to where he was. And we never once saw the lighthouse in that last shot. So I don't know if maybe he was stranded on that island and he was just interpreting all of this in his head of being saved by a ship that was never going to arrive. And it
So,
was the lack of food that was making him imagine everything, or water and all that.
yeah, which is so two things in this movie that we kind of that are important. There's actually a couple. He finds this like mermaid icon
Mm-hmm.
thing. I don't know, like ceramic thing,
Yeah,
and that implants like the idea of like mermaids and him wanting to get it on with Ariel.
which was
Very
interesting.
gross. Very. It's because okay, we'll get to that. And then there is the fact that what's supposed to be taken is that there's a seagull that keeps like mocking him
Mm-hmm.
and keeps kind of because it's a seagull, so it's a joke. That's that's just common knowledge. Everybody knows that seagulls are jokes.
Mm-hmm.
They're like geese, but smaller. That's not all accurate. I just want to keep going. Uh, so it's taunting him the entire time, and Willem Dafoe is like, "Don't kill it because if you kill it, it's bad luck because there are fishermen souls in there or shipmen souls." And then he kills the bird, and that's supposed to be like then you see the winds change,
Mm-hmm.
being like the turning point of the movie.
Well, see, and the movie is all about the descent into madness, which is why, and my theory might be wrong. I don't think there's an answer, but why I think he was dead the whole time is, he at the very end his body's being pecked at by these seagulls.
Yeah,
So I'm imagining that obviously that's not his first day out there being pecked at. So at the beginning of the movie, he's slowly starting to become delusional, which is, the beginning of the movie, if he was imagining that. And then when he kills that seagull, which in reality he's being pecked at.
Mm-hmm.
He kills that seagull. That's when he goes into his full descent to madness, and it's not until he falls down all those stairs that he wakes up and realizes his actual situation.
I
But
wish
I
that was
just
actually in the movie.
I
Boy, that
just
would
feel
be
like that
interesting.
that's what I took away from it. And then, when you watch those videos, they're all talking about the gods and stuff like that, and I can see where they're connecting it, but I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit simpler than just about gods and stuff like that.
Well, simple would be right. Not in the movie would be another thing,
That
right?
too. Yeah.
It's the lip service thing. They're paying lip service to heroes like, Poseidon and Prometheus and all
Hmm.
of but you have to, it's not in the movie.
Hmm.
So you can't be like, here's the story and you're gonna have to make, well, it's not in the movie, so you can't say that's part of it. Other than that's just what they believe.
And
Uh
in a movie where dialogue is really important, I feel like I needed the subtitles on for this movie more than I needed
I
them
did
on for
too.
Parasite.
I did too. Well,
Just
it's
because
because
it's not that I didn't know what they were saying, but a lot of times it felt like they were mumbling or
mm-hmm.
talking too quiet
Yep.
or speaking almost too quick or mixing words together because they're talking a little bit quicker in certain parts that it just didn't I didn't feel like I could hear everything.
Or they're drunk a lot, and so
That
then
too.
it's just.
Okay, so the movie does have some very entertaining moments. I mean, other
I
than
think
not knowing what's going on.
I think the only scene that really made me laugh was Robert Pattinson being drunk and saying he hates the food,
Oh, and then
he
the
hates the
very
cooking, and the guy goes on this entire tangent tirade about this gods killing him and gutting him alive, and it backs up to him being like, "Yeah, I like your food. Okay, I like your
all
food.
right, all right. I
I like
like
your
your food.
food." Which, what I actually, okay, so the way I think this movie could have been better, this is going to be a bold statement to say, is to not be a movie. It should have been a graphic novel.
Or just an episode of, like you said, the Twilight Zone.
Well, I say graphic novel because I don't want to like change everything. Well, I guess I'm changing mediums, but I could see it being adapted because one moment that I completely missed, like I saw it, but it's one of
Hmm.
those things where I don't actually know what I'm looking at, and I'm like, just tell me the story straight, and I can be able to engage with it better.
Hmm.
That's a whole other debate, but for this movie, that's what it's doing. And he finds like it ends up he's finding the other Willem Dafoe's other mate,
Hmm.
his head, and
Yeah,
it's
in the
supposed,
cage. Yeah.
which I didn't know if that was actually happening or if I actually couldn't tell who that was. So I'm kind of like, what's going on? And why is that scene being intercut with him self abusing, as as Willem Dafoe calls it?
Yeah. So, did you think, talking about the actual light itself, did you think that there was something in there? Like that
Uh
was this, or was it just their madness? Because I personally think that with him screaming at the end of it, it was he actually put his hand in the fire and he had like toasted his hand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't actually think. Boy, that'd be interesting if there's something like actually going on. Which I would say I'd almost want it to be like a Twilight Zone thing, just because
Hmm.
in one of those it would actually say here's what was going on the whole time
Yeah.
and kind of open it up. But yeah, I think it's just a light, and that they're just kind of going crazy. And Robert, and now you kind of get. I think that actually here's another way that you could have opened it up with having it be the same movie and me not being like none of this matters, you're just making it up,
Hmm.
is if Willem Dafoe is not dead at the end, and so you have the same shot, but then you pan up and he's still alive, because then it's either like a mystical thing going on,
Yeah.
because really it would be the exact same story arc as what the last guy before Robert Pattinson comes in, whoever that was, his other second mate was like,
Although the
because
Willem
he
Dafoe.
loses his eye,
Mhm.
he's dead, maybe he gets killed, and maybe it's just like that story again, and it's like a cycle thing.
And speaking back to my theory of him imagining it or whatever the case may be, if he did actually kill somebody in his past, the Willem Dafoe character could have been that person that he killed in his past, but him reliving the pain of being close to somebody and then killing them. It's not the
Yes,
same
because
person, but he could have been reliving that feeling.
I think that's what it's supposed to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
because it does match cut to that person, which we don't know who that is until after you
Yeah.
find out he let
Yeah.
him fall and die. And because he doesn't actually, does he act? You know what? This Robert Pattinson's gonna make a great Batman. Because if you remember at the end of Batman Begins, he doesn't, he does not kill Ra's al Ghul. He just lets him fall off and die. He just lets a guy fall off and die. He's gonna be a great Batman. This guy.
Well, that is one takeaway that I had because, like I said at the beginning, everybody's been a little skeptical of Robert Pattinson, and I've seen him in a couple of other things where he's really good at. But I think,
Apparently, Good Times is really
yeah,
good.
I think in this movie, even if you hadn't seen anything since Twilight, if you watch this movie just for the performances alone, you're gonna get a guy who's gonna be playing Bruce Wayne and Batman, who can look innocent enough and be super dark at the same time.
Yeah.
Because this guy, like, I would never have guessed when we were first introduced to him. I'm like, oh, so he's the normal one out of the two, and in reality, he's one that had actually murdered somebody, took their name, slowly descending
Yeah.
into madness, and then is going to bury another guy alive. I mean, he's
Maybe this
pretty messed up.
it is. I was about to say something. Now I can't remember what it is. Wake. Oh, so Willem Dafoe's character's last name is Wake. Isn't that funny? Because it's like a dream thing, but also like an ocean thing.
Ha, clever.
Isn't that so smart and original? Aren't they so happy with themselves? I wish they did so. Okay, so we find out. Here's a question.
Hmm.
So, as the night continues and the days continue on, and they
Hmm.
play with how much time has actually passed, and Willem Dafoe gaslights Robert Pattinson into saying and doing things that he may have not actually done,
Yeah.
which he does a lot and is really frustrating because that's what I think is actually, because it's again like, is that what actually happens? I wish we actually knew so I could have like a read on that and be able to talk about it instead of it just being a mystery, because that's not interesting. Uh, we find out something about the captain, about Willem Dafoe, but I
Hmm.
don't actually know what it is because Robert Pattinson says that he's like a liar, and I thought we're about to find out he's not actually a captain.
I
But
think everything they were talking about was lies. I didn't know what to believe.
well, because at that point I'm like, so is he not actually a captain, and this is all something else that's going on?
Hmm.
But then that's not what's going on because he sees all of his notes about him about to like take his wages and not pay him.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that's not what I was expecting, but that's a real dick move.
It is, right? He's like, he's lazy, he does all this, he sleeps late, he doesn't do his work,
I was
he
expecting him to
spends
like look at it and see that he's been on there for like a whole year or something.
yeah, at least he goes to the shed and has too much alone time, like all the. By the way, before I continue, apparently there's something in the script because it's supposed to be that the lighthouse is a penis. That's supposed to be a thing.
Oh.
Very well, so because you see that when he has his
Hmm.
self-abuse moment,
Yeah.
but apparently it was supposed to be in the script, like in like shot where it's supposed to be the lighthouse, and then it's supposed to match cut to his downstairs.
Hmm.
That's supposed to be in the script, but the producers didn't want that in the movie. So it's
Interesting.
supposed to be
I
super
can kind of
obvious.
see that. I can kind of see it.
Anyway, so yeah, so we just find out that he's not getting get paid, and I'm like, but he's not. Is that what he's lying about? Or is he act? Is that what the captain has been lying about the whole time? Is that supposed to be the reveal, or
I
is
couldn't.
it? Yeah,
I couldn't tell you.
because again, that's
Yeah.
boy. Why don't like? And I was just so, and this is my entire thing. That's like internally screaming, like something happened, or stuff is happening. I can't say nothing happened, but it doesn't feel like anything is happening from moment to moment. It's just
It just a bunch of stuff happening.
basically,
Well, with
and
that, let's go into our I guess final thoughts of it.
Are you sure? Because we have like because I like to because I did not take any notes. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you texted me after you watched this before you did it, and you're like, you're gonna have to buy a new notebook and take all the notes.
Well, I guess
There's so
just to
much
keep
to
track of all your
say.
different theories, because I had no idea what I watched.
Cause so you had that, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it twice. I was gonna go full like how we do it with a lot of things, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
write down the plot and just like my reactions as we go.
But it's weird though, because you
I
start
was gonna
watching and you're
watch.
just like, what?
Yeah, I was like, for the first, I could literally like, which I did not do because I got to the end of this movie and I'm like, I'm so angry. There's nothing that happened. There's nothing for me to say other than this is what it's like if if this COVID happened in the 1800s
Mm-hmm.
with two straight guys, or well, I guess it's all one of the themes because I read the Wikipedia page and one of the themes is homoeroticism. I guess that's supposed to be it because they almost kissed that one time when they're both
Oh, I
drunk.
know. I was like, oh, it's gonna go that way, is it? And then they both backed up and wanted to fight each other. That
Which,
was pretty
yeah,
funny.
well, homoeroticism and toxic masculinity, which I guess those are both things in the movie, but they're not really the focus of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which again is not interesting. Then, like, it has all of these uh, like almost again, like it wants to have them in there just as like token things to have in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know why when other people watch it, why they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so interesting." I really don't understand because I watched the same movie.
And you're
I
just like,
wasn't
I
even
don't, I don't get it.
wouldn't end. Parasite didn't end in the good way. Well, I'm like, yes, I get to spend more time
Mm-hmm.
with these people. In this movie, I checked it at the like a 45-minute mark. I'm like, oh my god. And I checked it at like the hour and a half mark. I'm like, this movie starts 15 minutes.
Well,
Oh my
that's when it started
gosh.
to get really crazy.
Yeah, because then he's killing Willem Dafoe and he sees like the mermaid again. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, he goes full tilt crazy. Uh,
Yeah.
you know what, though? Similar to what I said about Crawl, about
Mm-hmm.
how it gets us in the protagonist's head because they too want to leave the basement.
Yeah.
This gets me in their heads really well because I want to leave this stupid island and the stupid lighthouse.
Oh, I
So
agree.
it's almost good in that regard because it gets me with them. I'm with my protagonist. I want to be with him. I want to follow through.
Well, look, I'll give the guy credit because he gave us a movie that was, acted very well, and I thought it was directed very well, but
I agree.
just the overall story, I feel like he could have done without so much ambiguous storytelling, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean,
I
again,
can't really recommend it to anybody unless you have like some sort of interest in watching it.
yeah. I mean, like I'm like acting like I'm really upset about it, and it does bother me.
Hmm.
But like, if this guy comes out and like, here's my next movie, I would be interested in it. I might watch it. I'm not discounting the guy because it's like one of them directed it, but two people wrote it. The two people
Hmm.
wrote it, but one directed it.
Yeah,
And
but I guess.
I
Oh,
watch
go
some
ahead.
of these movies like this and like Crawl, and I'm like, how do they get these people? Like, where do they find these like random people making this stuff? And like, how did they get these Hollywood connections to, get Sam Raimi on a movie, or in this case, Willem Dafoe,
And Robert Pattinson, yeah.
Green Goblin and Batman on a movie? Like, why does that happen? Man. Anyway, that's all.
Well, that about wraps it up then for our general spoiler discussion on The Lighthouse. So I guess if you're interested in watching it, give it a shot, but I'm not going to recommend it for anybody. Just if you feel like you want to check it out, definitely check it out. But I can't say that it's for everybody.
If if you wanted to watch, I'll go this far. If you wanted to watch The Shining, but don't have 5 hours to waste,
Mm-hmm.
watch this movie instead.
Yeah.
Because they're equally the same. I feel they're equally the same about both of them. I say that. I say I don't like The Shining, but I haven't watched the entire movie in a long, long time.
Yeah, we need to rewatch that soon. But if you guys have seen this movie and you got your comments or questions about it, anything you'd like us to bring up in a separate video, we can do that. Just email them to us. Or if you have a movie that you want us to watch and we'll do a video on, then feel free to send that to us at our email, which is towercitymedia@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the places at towercitymedia.com. Make sure to
And
like, comment, subscribe, and yeah. Oh, I think I have our next movie we should watch. I
what's
forgot to
that?
tell you. I'll just tell you later.
All right. And
I don't want to get the hopes up
we'll
because it
see
might
you
not
guys
happen.
and we'll see you guys next time.